Okay, hello and welcome back to Whispers of Inner Power. Today I'm speaking with Suzanne Culberg, also known as the Nope Coach, who works with recovering people pleasers who are done putting themselves last, people like me. Susan helps high functioning, overgiving humans stop performing for approval, say no without spiraling, and build lives and businesses that don't require self sacrifice to function. Her work is direct, honest, and deeply rooted in nervous system integrity, which is why I'm super glad that you're here. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
It's my pleasure. So you have we've done a written interview that's going to be available on my Substack. And in this video interview, we're going to go a bit more in depth to some of the gems, really, that you shared with us. And one of the things you said that drew my attention was that your business began as a whisper, as a voice that said, you can't keep doing this. Can you take us back to that time? What was happening in your life then?
So, at the my business has been through many iterations and re-nichings, as I'm sure many of us have been through. But initially, the whisper to have my own business, it was never something I was interested in. I preferred the safety and the security of being employed, and the convenience of a regular paycheck. Like, entrepreneurship's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
However, it also is limiting in the hours you have to turn up and stuff. And I had two young kids. I've still got two kids. They're significantly older now. Welcome to the teen years this year. And in order for me to go to a office or corporate gig, I had to put them in daycare. And I'm not opposed to that. Like, everyone does what works. But where we were living at the time, my daycare was like over an hour from work, and it was just logistically, once I had the second child, almost impossible, because a friend, a mate can help pick up one kid. Once you've got two and you need two car seats plus their own kids, it logistically was a nightmare. And so I was like, yeah, I want to, it was the convenience of that. And it was also like, there's got to be people who are actually telling the truth out here, because a lot of the stuff you see online looks magical and magnificent and promises the world just for, the small amount of 5 or 10K. And then you might fruit this over and then be like, what was I thinking? So it was like, is there people or work available to talk to the places that you're in? And that thread has come through every iteration of my work, like the real talk and stuff. And it's certainly just, be my calling to cut through the noise.
Yeah. And this is really something that I feel sets you apart, is you're a truth teller, and it's very honest and refreshing to see that, because just like you were saying, there's a lot of sparkles in your eyes, you just work, or what was it, this book, like 4 hours, the 4-hour week or something, and then
4-hour work week, and then he had the 4-hour body. He had like a whole 4-hour series.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. And yeah, you have this image that I started in business in 2016, and I can really resonate with your story, because it's not the reason why I started my first iteration of business. This is my third already. But yeah, at the time I felt really miserable, and I had only one kid at the time. I have two now. That I had to, I was working in a school. I was teaching English in Belgium. That's where I'm from. And I had to leave home at 6:20 a.m. to bring my daughter to school, 3-year-old school, kindergarten, and then take the metro for another hour to get to my place of work, finish at 5, then pick her up at 6, be back at home at 7, dinner, bath, bed, and then you're like, am I seeing my kid growing up? How is she doing? Like, I have no idea. And then being so exhausted all the time of this crazy rhythm. And I remember speaking with a friend at the time and be like, I'm so exhausted. Like, I feel like a horse that won't keep going. And she answered, well, that's the way it is. We must endure. And this, to me, this is a sentence that I think just sets me on fire immediately. Like, no, I'm not having this. This is not the way I want to live my life. I was, I'm destined for other things. I don't know what, but this, no. And it was about a year later that I started my business, because I wanted to travel, and I wanted to, yes, I always wanted to have just a different lifestyle, and not just, travel, like go to a place, but actually be in the place. And so
Yes.
at first I was thinking, oh, maybe I could get a teaching job in a place, abroad. And then I just typed, can I actually teach online? And it started, and now I'm not even a teacher anymore, but that's how it all started. So I really get this thing of like saying no to a lifestyle that just doesn't align with what you want and with your life circumstances. With having children is already requiring so much of us. We want to be present for them. Not that it's so easy to be present for them if you get caught in the whole do everything in your business, of course.
But also too, like, we can fill our lives with things, people, like our kids, our partner, our friends, our house, our things that we surround ourselves with, hobbies, and like it can be full but also empty because you have all this stuff but you don't get to enjoy any of it. Like the way you were describing getting your child to childcare, and then the travel to work, and then in that travel time what a lot of us tend to do is like pack it with stuff. So I remember dropping my kids at daycare, and then I'll listen to the podcast while I'm driving, and then and it's just kind of like, it's exhausting. And you said you get home and you get the kids to bath and bed, and you just finally think, oh, and then the guilt sets in because it's like, I haven't spent any time with my kids, I've still got things to catch up on. And then you're thinking, well, I just have this moment to myself, and then invariably comes the, mommy, I had a nightmare. And part of you, like, your heart goes out to them, but the other part's like, couldn't tonight, you just sleep, please. And it's layers and layers. And as your point, as your friend said, we must endure. It's like, according to who? Because in the time of social media where we're more connected online than ever, a lot of us have become disconnected. Like I was thinking about this just yesterday. I was like, it wasn't that many generations ago where we were very communal, like not tribal, but and people took care of different things. And I was like making a doctor's appointment for one kid while filling in registration for footy for another kid. And it was like, wow, there's so many little things that people just sweep under the carpet or don't think. And then someone comes home, is like, what did you do today? And you just feel the steam coming out of your ears. So there is a lot to balance. And then adding a business on top of that and other people's expectations and deadlines, it can get exhausting.
Yeah. So what is your take on that? How do we get out of this?
Well, I think the very first thing is it's going to take time. Like, we didn't get into this scenario overnight. So there's no magic book or planner or podcast or, hack that you're going to find, although people will try and sell it to you, that is going to like fix this overnight. So it's kind of looking at, okay, I'm an old school pen and paper girl. I'm always surrounded by journals and stuff, but you can do it online if you want to. But like, make a list of all the things that you need to do. And it's funny, when I ask clients to do this, they and if you're listening and you try this, notice how your first iteration of your list, when you read over it, like, did you include like dental checkups and eye checkups and paying bills, and if you take kids to sport, if you have kids and they have sport, like the travel time to and from the sport. Or my son is on the spectrum, so he has specialist appointments, and there's making the appointments, seeing the specialist, them being behind, sitting in waiting rooms. Like, literally take a list everything you do in any given week, and then put a time thing next to it, and then look at how many of these things end up multitasked because you're doing one while you do the other. And have a look. And also too, when do you have downtime? Chances are you don't. And it's funny, I was at a retreat thing recently, and she was talking about, she goes, how many people, when you do your scheduling and stuff, start with your rest? And it's like, I do. And everyone's like, what, real? I'm like, yeah, no, my time, first thing that goes in every single week. Now it's like an hour a day. And so many people go, how did you find that? And it's like, I didn't start with an hour a day. I started with like 20 minutes a week. And in that time, you deliberately do nothing, and then what you feel like. So if you've got a hobby, I like, I'm currently into monochromatic coloring. So it's just one color and you color it in. So meditative. sometimes I meditate, sometimes I journal, often I read, but like that time I guard like a dragon guards my gold. And it doesn't become the, oh, well, I forgot to do this time. It doesn't become the, put everything in its overflown time. That's that time first, because when you're drained and exhausted, like I'm sure we've all done a task that should have taken 5 minutes and we've sat at the computer for hours and wanted to chuck the laptop out the window and then left it and then come back the next day fresh and done it in the 5 minutes. It's because you're not resting. So like rest, is not something you get after everything's done, because everything's never done. Rest is the strategy so that you are refilling your cup. And a lot of people say, oh, it's so selfish. And it's like, the airlines, they have a lot of things to answer for. But one thing they do right is fit your own oxygen mask first, because if you are burnt out, depleted, exhausted, and literally falling down in the aisle, not only can you not help anyone else, including your kids, but then you are actually a burden because you're in the way of other people trying to exit the aircraft. So it's like you can get like this in your day-to-day if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah. And we've heard this sentence of putting your mask on first thousands of times, but I think that in what you've just shared with us, you've given us very concrete, practical examples of what that might look like. And I think it's a trap that we fall into repeatedly. I'm just reflecting back on my journey, and I've been through burnout, and I put boundaries when I went through burnout in 2021. I took a break from my business and everything for 2 years to focus on my second child. I mean, both my children I homeschool as well, because otherwise.
Oh, you've got enough to do already, Jessica.
But you know what? In fact, the fact of homeschooling is also a choice of facilitating our well-being. For me, like I was saying, this commuting thing in the morning and at night from school to home was like exhausting. And the fact of just like, we have our own rhythm. We wake up in the morning. We know that around 8:39, we're going to start the program, that I'm going to finish by that time. It's like my mornings, I don't work. I'm with my kids. That's it. And then they're home and they do their own things. And I don't have to pick up anyone from anywhere. Except if we want to. This is luxury in a way. So yes, it requires a lot from me, and it's the responsibility of the education, especially my daughter now. She's going on 14. That is a different story than when they're 5 or 6, obviously. At the same time, if they had to go to school, it would add more to my stress than the current version of it. We've been doing it for 8 years, 9 years. I mean, I know my stuff. It's like, that's fine. It's part of the routine now. But I see that when I got back to business, which was 2024-ish, end of, I was like, okay, so traumatized by burnout to think like, I'm so scared to ever burn out again. I don't want that story to repeat, that I put very strong boundaries. Like, I'm done by 7 p.m., then it's my time. Every night I'm in bed at 9. Weekends, no way. I'm going to do my chores, my part of the chores on Saturday morning, and then don't ask anything of me. I might play with you or whatever, but nothing that I have to, be cognitively present and give of my energy to something that I must do and that I don't choose to do. So that was really good for a time. And then recently, look at that. Business evolves, more clients. That's great, right? But then more stress, or thinking, oh, wait, I need to scale. So I need to create things that I can deliver when I'm not around. So that requires also your time. Then my daughter has new things at school that are more difficult, that she needs my help with. So she used to be autonomous. And now everything that's left for her to cover until June, I have to be with her to do it. So we go from like an hour together per day to 4. Right? My husband is writing a story and wants me, because I'm good with words, to be like, come and edit it. And I want to be a part of that project, and there we are. And so when you have this overwhelm, I find that at least my nervous system, and I think it's the case for many people, goes automatically into how can I do more faster, instead of going to how can I rest first, like you were saying. How do I stop it for a moment and then preserve this time, even if it's 20 minutes, to just myself? It's like I could see this morning exactly what you were saying. I was homeschooling. I was not homeschooling. I was venting on everyone. I was irritated by
Yes.
every little noise. Like no, no, no. And I want to go back to something you actually shared in the interview. It's like take your resentment as information.
Yes. Okay. So do you want me to use this example you just gave? Because this is perfect. I love how you said, like, there's stages. You can get into a routine and rhythm. I loved your example of homeschooling being easier for you guys as a family because the travel. Like, and I think that's the thing. Sometimes people think, oh, well, I can't do this. Like, even jobs, oh, I can't do this online, depending what the role is. And many things can transition, or homeschooling will be a lot of time. But if it's funny, a few of my friends who homeschool, they say in any given 6-hour school day, the learning time technically is only like 2 hours because the rest of it is like people management and whatever. So it's kind of like, okay. But then there's creep. Like, you get the child enters a new subject that's going to take a little bit more time for a period of time. Or, your husband's writing something, you're good at words. People will ask things of you. So my kids, one of them is very sporty, and left to her own devices, she would do all the sports. And saying to her, like, I love you dearly. I love your passion. I know that you have the time and the energy for all this sort of stuff. And you don't want to like dump adult burdens onto them, but you got to be like, logistically, we can't have you at netball at 4 to be at basketball by 6 because game day is Saturday. If you have a home game here and an away game, like, letting them know the logistics. So it's like, and then how many nights a week are you willing to, like, you as an adult, drive them to training or whatever? So it's like having this discussion, because people need to learn in life, especially from a young age, there is unlimited interest in exciting, bright, shiny objects, but there's capacity of time. So,
Exactly.
and even with your husband, I love that you're writing this thing. It's exciting. I can feel the passion. I'm so happy for you. I want to help you with this. I'm available. And then give the window, like Wednesdays 3 to 4 is the editing time or whatever. And you can be, and if you want to share your passion, excitement, maybe a dinner time conversation, like give me an update. But like when partners work from home together, it's funny. We've only moved here about 6 months ago, but before this, we both worked from home, and we butted heads a bit at first, but then we got into this rhythm, and now he's back at the office and I'm home again. At lunchtime, I'm just kind of like, I feel like that meme you see of that alone person just sitting on the swing set, because I was like, I've missed that time. But in the beginning, or if he was in a big project, sometimes you inadvertently get snippy because they have their agenda and you have your agenda, and it's like waves. Sometimes you are in rhythm and sometimes there's a crash and there's a fall. But just saying, like, I love this. I can see that you're frustrated, or, I can see that this school part is harder at the moment. I'm not saying that I'm going to leave you in the lurch. I'm not saying I'm ignoring this. I feel this and I'm doing this. And just like gently reminding people. And it's funny, in the beginning, there can be a little bit of, and sometimes people can say a comment like, oh, don't you care about me or something? And that can hurt, but especially when it's an adult, you can see, well, that's their projection, like, but when it's a kid, it really pulls at the heartstrings. And it's just like, it's because I care, because when I'm rested or when I've had this stuff, I have my full attention to help you with your homework or to help with this project. But if I'm not, and I'm just adding this to another thing to do, then it's just not as good quality and I don't enjoy it as much. And I want to give everything to the thing that I'm helping you with. And people get it. But what tends to happen is we get to a point of burnout and then we just yell at them, after all I've done for you. That statement is like a nail in the coffin. Or, don't you see what I have to do? And then, I do these too. And when I catch them, it's like, okay, breathe. And like, it's, I like, educate's a word, or show, but not like trauma dump. It's just kind of like, and depending on the age of the kid, like one of my kids is very arty, and it's like, how when you sit at your desk and create things and then you come out and you're feeling refreshed, that's what I get by reading books or whatever. And you think, oh, mum's doing nothing, I'm just going to come and, and it's like, it's still doing something, and you're giving them the time frame. So because, like, people's agenda isn't necessarily your agenda, and you can come to that middle ground, but both from a place of let's discuss, not from you both riled up and just pick at each other.
I love that. And I can immediately feel, that this starts with yourself, because it's really hard to give such clear boundaries. And I love the way you phrase them because they're very positive boundaries. I care and, or I cannot and, rather than no, full stop. You're actually showing love through boundaries. But I know that if yourself, because this is where it shows up in me, and I could feel it really this morning of like, it's not they ask of me, but I don't even say no. And it's not because I'm thinking that I don't want to say no. It's because there's this part of me that's really subconscious that is like, I should be able to do it all. And so I am going to take the mental load of having to do it anyways. And if I cannot, because my capacity is not there, then I'm blaming myself, really, rather than
That's
gently saying,
conditioning.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned. Good girls, good women, good mothers, good. As soon as I hear the good term, I've got like a word allergy to that. Because it's like, according to who? Who benefits from you should being able to do it all? The person who's peddling some planner or system or whatever, or the person who, there's whenever there's a statement, it's like, according to who? Like, where did I pick this up from? Like, who are the people who say should, and who benefits from this? Because when you actually, take that time and notice, it's not that the thoughts don't come. And I think that people think, oh, you magically don't feel guilty or whatever. They come. And I just see, I like, on TV when they have that ticker tape going across with all like the breaking news or whatever. Sometimes I like just imagine like looking at all across the screen, because then I'm not in it. I'm stepped back from it. And it's like, oh, wow, there's a lot in there, And, is that really true? And it's like, no, it's not really true. And you know your own heart. Like, I love you and I have every respect for you, but I love me too. And I think sometimes we're not taught self-love. We're taught, oh, that's selfish. Others first, yourself last, everything like that. And it's like, it's because I love you that you can't do every sport, or you can't. And the thing is, sometimes people go, I can't do this, Suzanne. And I'm like, okay, for parents, do you let your kids eat everything they want to eat all the time? Because most times kids want to eat candy or ice cream. Like, I don't want to eat vegetables. I don't want to, and it's like, no, like, so it's like, you do have boundaries. Like, do you let them come in at 3 a.m.? Like, maybe if they're young and they have a nightmare or something, it's totally different. But it's like, do you let them like stay up all night? No, that's, so there's areas in our life. Depending on the house, do you let people wear shoes inside? Like, some people are religious about this, no shoes in the house. Others just don't care. But it's like, there are areas in your life where you have boundaries and you set them and you keep them without thinking. And it's just because conditioning that these ones, especially right now with, we're like, oh, I think for me, this is going to sound awful, but, I'm a truth teller. I have the thought sometimes like, oh my gosh, my kid's going to need therapy on that one day. And instead of like beating myself up for it, I'm like, everyone needs help eventually. And it's not like I'm deliberately going out, because sometimes I think we're like, oh my gosh, I'm reading all this stuff about gentle parenting and this and that and the other. And you're trying to be perfect. Yeah. And it's just no perfect. We can't control how our actions are received by others. So something that is with full compassion, someone else can see as you being really uncaring. And so I just like, we're all a bit bucked up. So that just gives me relief in the moment. It's like, yeah, they're going to probably talk about that in therapy one day. Anyway.
I love that. It just reminds me of something that my therapist said once. She said, it's a good thing that you're not a perfect mother, because otherwise your kids would never be able to feel that they have a chance at reaching your level or becoming better than you. So that's even harder to like, I had the perfect mother, I'll never be like that. Rather than, okay, she was human and I can be human. This is a good model. So yeah, let's be flawed and
give your kids permission to do the things too. Like, it's funny, growing up, my late mother, I loved her dearly, but she never had friends. She never had hobbies. Like, I don't want to use the term just a mum because it feels derogatory, but I remember growing up and I wasn't a child who aspired. Like, some kids grow up and they just can't wait to be a mum. And honestly, my husband and I met, neither of us were really sure we wanted to have kids. We were together nearly a decade. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were together 9 years. And then I was like, we had the discussion, do you know what I mean? But it was because I thought once you became a mum, that was it. Like, it was your entire life was about your kids. And if that's you and you're listening to this and you love that, more power to you. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right. But for me, it's like, I still want to do my things. Yeah, and when the kids, I do a mumcation at least once a year. I'm doing it next weekend as we're recording this, and I go
This is
away
me
on
being
my
like,
own or with a close friend.
wow.
And it's funny, it's 3 nights, and this one is supposedly a business one. So we both bring our laptops, and she rang me yesterday. She went through all the things she wanted to do. And I was like, do you know what? I don't feel called to do anything. I'm just going to bring a book and
Yeah.
sit by the beach and live my best life.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, because, and the kids know, oh yeah, mummy's going to be away. And we talk once a day, and they know that, and they know if there's an emergency, of course, I'd come back or they can ring me. But then again, it's like educating people what an emergency is, because you don't know. And I remember the first time it was like, don't interrupt me. I was doing a work thing unless it's really important. And they're nodding. They're like 4 and 6. And then my daughter comes running in. I'm like, oh my God, what is it? It's like 3 minutes later. She's like, I can fit 27 blueberries in my mouth. Isn't that important? And I'm like, okay. And I think sometimes when we set boundaries and we have conversations, we have standards in our head of, we just assume the other people will know. And it's like, no, just ask. Like, this are the things. So like, now that they're older, blood and bone, like even they're home right now, they can come in. If there's blood and bone, 100%. I'll be like, sorry, Jessica, gotta go. But if it's like my homework's late, well, that's a you problem.
Yeah, I like that. That's a you problem. Suzanne, you're running a membership that I'm a part of that's called the Dawn Era. I love the word era because I feel that there's a certain age that we women hit that point where we're like, you know what, I think I'm done. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
It's interesting you say age, because I don't know, a phase, a stage. I'm thinking maybe I think my kids are born done or just conditioned done. But and I love that for them, because it's like, why are we conditioned to, you know, please everybody else and put everyone else's needs first? There are totally times for that. Like if my kids RSVP to a birthday party, and then on the day they're like, oh, we had a fight yesterday. I don't care. You've told them you're going to be there. You're going. Like, it's not, you know. But if it's like, anyway, the done era is for people who are just, they feel the call to do something more, but not as in like add something else into your plate of things to do, because, you know, that's just exhausting. But they're done looking at the next ad, the bright, shiny promise that's going to fix the thing. And they're done feeling silently resentful, or sometimes not so silently, depending whereabouts you are on the journey. And they're just wanting to, you know, speak up and be heard and valued and connected without like burning the entire life down. And it is a slow process, and it begins with, you know, that first no to the tiniest of things. Because I think sometimes people think there's this kind of like doorway moment. It's like, you know, from here on forward, I'm never going to overgive, or I'm never going to whatever. And it's like, no, it's built like any muscle. And sometimes you take a break and things creep back up. Like I loved your point. You had this burnout, and then you come back and you're like, oh, hang on. And it's like, what are the signs for you that this is starting to creep? Like, you know, like if you're in business, scope creep. Suddenly you're doing 10 things that aren't on the agreement. You're like, well, hello, we need to have a conversation here. And how does this happen in your life? Because we have plans or hobbies or dreams or goals or things. When you get to the point where you're like, oh, that'd be nice, like pipe dream, rather than I'm actively working towards it, I think that's a sign you're in like the done era, when you're like, this got to change. And like, as you said, that person said to you, oh, this is just, we just endure. When you're like, hang on, why? That's a done era.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your answers and for your time and for this conversation. It's been really insightful, full of gems and real practical, concrete examples that I'm sure lots of people are going to recognize themselves in. Yeah, if you'd like to read Suzanne's full interview, you'll find it on my Substack. This is only one part of it. Don't miss the other part. And if you resonate with her work, especially if you're in your Dawn era, I'll include links below to her membership, newsletter, podcast. That's still going on, yeah?
Yep.
Podcast. Yep. So you can explore further. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for continuing to pay attention to your own whispers of inner power. And until next time, bye.